It was a peaceful day. The sun was shining brightly over the planet, and everything seemed normal. People went about their business, kids played in the parks, people walked through busy streets, and ships drifted in the calm skies above. The world had known peace for so long, but that day, something changed. It started slowly at first. The sky, which had been clear, began to darken in one small area. A small patch in the sky became shadowed, and no one thought much of it. Maybe it was just a cloud or an eclipse. But the shadow grew, spreading larger and larger, until it began to cover the whole sky. It wasn't a normal cloud, it wasn't a simple eclipse. This felt different. This felt wrong. People looked up. Some thought it was just another strange weather event, but others felt a cold shiver run down their spines. The air seemed to grow heavier, and a feeling of unease spread through the city. News outlets began broadcasting the event, and soon, everyone was watching the sky, waiting for an explanation that never came. Then the darkness started to shift. The shadows in the sky began to take form. A shape, an enormous shape, started to appear. It was massive, almost too big to comprehend. At first, people thought it was an asteroid, or maybe a large spacecraft entering their atmosphere, but that didn't make sense. No ship, no object, had ever been this large. And it wasn't just falling from the sky, it was hovering. There was no sound. No engines. It was as if it was just there. People scrambled to understand what was happening. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel all rushed to their stations. Communications between different cities were disrupted as everyone tried to figure out what this thing in the sky was. Some thought it was a new alien invasion, others feared it was an attack from an unknown force. The questions flooded in, but there were no answers. The object didn't move much at first. It just hung there, blocking the sun and casting an eerie shadow over the world. It seemed like it had always been there, waiting. The news coverage began to show footage from all over the world, people on the street staring up, faces filled with confusion, fear, and awe. This wasn't an ordinary event. This wasn't a normal day. Hours passed. Still, the object didn't move. It loomed over the cities, a dark cloud of mystery. Scientists tried to analyze it, but every sensor they used gave them strange results. Nothing seemed to make sense. Was it a natural phenomenon? No, it couldn't be. The world had seen many strange things, but this was different. By nightfall, panic began to spread. The sky remained dark, and the object showed no signs of leaving. People gathered in their homes, watching the news, waiting for some explanation. Some feared the worst, others hoped for answers, but no one knew what was coming next. The world held its breath. Then, as if in response to the growing tension, something happened. The object began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. It descended lower, closer to the ground. People gasped in fear, unable to look away. The sky was completely dark now, and this thing in the sky had them all trapped under its shadow. Suddenly, the object stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. No sounds, no movements. The whole world seemed to pause. And then, without warning, a voice came through. It wasn't from a person. It wasn't from any known language. It was a cold, mechanical voice that echoed across the planet. This is the horizon, humanity's answer. The words sent shockwaves through everyone. No one knew who had spoken them, or why, but one thing was certain, whoever, or whatever, this was, they were not from this world. They were not from any force humanity had ever encountered before. And now, the world would have to face whatever came next. The sky had gone dark, and something was about to change forever. The world was still in shock. The voice that had echoed through the sky had left a strange mark on every person who heard it. Humanity's answer. What did that mean? And who or what was the horizon? Nobody knew, but everyone was certain of one thing: the world was no longer safe. The sky, dark and foreboding, seemed to hold a secret, one that the people of Earth were not prepared to understand. For the next few hours, silence ruled. The object had stopped moving and seemed to hover, still as a statue, high above the clouds. People tried to get answers from the government, from military leaders, but no one had a clear explanation. What could explain something this massive appearing out of nowhere, blocking out the sun, and speaking with an alien voice? Was this an invasion? Or perhaps a strange form of communication? The whole world was on edge. Then, as night began to fall, something new happened. At first, it was barely noticeable. A faint shimmer, like a ripple in the air, spread out from the dark shape. The object began to transform. Its surface, once smooth and metallic, started to shift, revealing lines of glowing lights and intricate patterns. The shape changed, rearranging itself like a puzzle being solved in real time. There was a subtle hum in the air, a strange energy that made the hair on the back of people's necks stand up. The ship, if that's what it was coming to life. And then, with a sound that was both terrifying and mesmerizing, the ship began to descend. Slowly at first, it moved closer to the earth, drawing the gaze of millions. People on the ground watched in awe and fear as it approached. It was a battleship, a massive, sleek vessel that seemed like something from a dream. Its surface was dark, almost black, but it had lights embedded throughout, glowing in patterns that humans had never seen before. It wasn't a normal ship. It wasn't even something humanity could comprehend. The battleship was far larger than any city on Earth. It was like nothing the world had ever encountered. The sheer scale of it was enough to make people feel small. As the ship neared, the clouds around it began to twist and swirl, like it was creating its own weather system. The air became heavier. The tension was almost unbearable. Was this a peaceful arrival? Or was it the beginning of an attack? And then, as it hovered just above the ground, a new message came. The voice that had first spoken was heard again, but this time it was different. It was more direct. More commanding. This is the horizon. We are humanity's answer to the universe's chaos. We are here to restore order. The word sent chills down the spine of every person listening. Restoring order. Who were these people? Where had they come from? And why had they waited until now to make their move? As the ship's engines hummed softly, a massive bay door on the underside of the vessel slowly began to open. The people on the ground stared up, eyes wide with fear and wonder. What was going to happen next? What came out of that ship? The answer was unexpected. Instead of troops, or weapons, or strange alien beings, what emerged from the bay were people, humans. But not the humans anyone recognized. These people were different. They wore armor that seemed to be made of a strange material, shimmering with a faint glow. They moved with purpose and discipline, their faces hidden beneath helmets. They didn't look like ordinary soldiers. They looked like something else, something far more advanced. The humans who emerged from the battleship were different in more ways than one. Their uniforms, sleek and metallic, seemed to pulse with an energy that was almost alive. Their eyes, though hidden behind visors, had an intensity that spoke of a long history of struggle and survival. These were not ordinary humans. These were the Horizon's crew, humans from a distant future, sent to ensure humanity's place in the universe. The people watching from below could hardly believe their eyes. A human ship, this Horizon, was here, and with it came humans who had traveled through space to confront the unknown. But why had they waited so long? Why had they arrived now, at the moment when everything seemed darkest? The world was filled with questions, and the answers felt just out of reach. The Horizon had appeared out of nowhere, and with it, a group of humans who were not just travelers but warriors. The true purpose of this appearance was still unclear. What did these humans want? Was it peace? Was it war? As the figurehead of the Horizon descended from the ship's ramp, a figure dressed in even more advanced armor, a voice echoed through the air again. "We are humanity's answer to the chaos of the universe. We will not bow to anyone. We will rise, and we will protect this world." The planet held its breath, wondering if the arrival of the Horizon would mark the beginning of a new era or the end of everything they knew. There was no turning back now. The sky had gone dark, and the only thing that could bring light back was yet to be revealed. The moment humanity had been waiting for had arrived. The Horizon, the human battleship, was no longer just a silent giant in the sky. It had become a symbol of something bigger, something that carried a weight of unimaginable power. The world watched in anticipation, not knowing what would happen next. The massive ship hovered silently above Earth, casting its enormous shadow over the land, a presence felt by every living being. The alien forces, who had long dominated this part of the galaxy, had already noticed the Horizon. Their ships, scattered across the atmosphere, had begun to move in response to the sudden arrival of the human vessel. At first, they remained distant, observing the situation with calculated calm, unsure of what to make of this unexpected enemy. But that calm wouldn't last long. Without warning, the first wave of alien ships launched an attack. They moved quickly, their sleek forms darting through the sky with unnatural speed. Energy blasts lit up the air, cutting through the atmosphere with intense force. The sky, once dark and silent, was now filled with the roar of weaponry and the shriek of metal cutting through the air. But the Horizon was ready. The human crew inside the battleship was unlike any force the galaxy had ever seen. They had prepared for this moment for years, perhaps longer than any living being realized. As the alien ships swarmed toward them, the Horizon's weapon systems hummed to life. Laser turrets, hidden deep within the ship's hull, emerged from hidden compartments, and massive energy cannons powered up, crackling with an intensity that could obliterate anything in its path. The first wave of alien ships came in too close. They launched a barrage of missiles and energy beams, hoping to overwhelm the human defenses. But the Horizon was far more agile than anyone had anticipated. It dodged with ease, spinning and weaving through the attack with a fluidity that made no sense for a ship its size. The alien ships couldn't keep up. As the Horizon twisted and turned, it fired back with incredible precision. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed, their ships reduced to fiery debris in the sky. But the battle was far from over. The remaining alien forces regrouped and came back stronger. They had more advanced technology than humanity could possibly imagine. They had weapons capable of taking down entire fleets with a single strike. For the first time since the Horizon appeared, the human ship found itself on the defensive. The sky, already filled with smoke and fire, became even more chaotic as the aliens launched a full-scale assault. Inside the Horizon, the crew worked tirelessly, coordinating every attack and defense strategy. The captain, a battle-hardened leader, stood at the helm, his eyes focused on the chaos unfolding outside. He had seen wars before, but this was different. These aliens weren't just invaders, they were ruthless conquerors, and they would not give up without a fight. But humanity was fighting for something far more important than just survival, they were fighting for their place in the universe. As the aliens unleashed their most devastating weapon, a massive energy cannon capable of vaporizing whole sections of the ship, the Horizon's crew made a risky decision. They knew that if they didn't act quickly, they would be destroyed. With a swift command, the captain ordered the crew to engage their secret weapon, a cloaking device capable of making the ship temporarily invisible to enemy sensors. For a brief moment, the Horizon disappeared from the alien ship's radar. It was as if the massive battleship had vanished into thin air. The aliens fired wildly, their weapons unable to lock onto the now invisible ship. The Horizon reappeared at the perfect moment, directly behind the alien fleet, its weapons already powered up and locked on target. The first alien ship was obliterated in a flash of light. Then another. And another. One by one, the alien fleet fell to the might of humanity's advanced weaponry. It was a battle unlike any other, a fight not just for survival, but for dominance. But even as victory seemed within their grasp, the aliens weren't backing down. Their commander, hidden deep within the largest ship of the fleet, had a final card to play. A last-ditch effort that would leave no survivors. The battle wasn't over, not yet. As the human crew readied themselves for what was to come, the Horizon's captain issued a new command: prepare for the final strike. In the distance, the last remaining alien ship began to power up its own weapon, a device capable of destroying entire planets. The countdown had begun, and humanity's future was about to be decided in the skies above them. The battle raged on, the fate of the world hanging in the balance. The Horizon had proven its power, but the question remained: would it be enough to stop the alien forces from ending everything humanity had worked so hard to protect? The sky had gone dark once again, and this time, there was no telling what would come from the shadows. As the battle continued to rage above Earth, something became abundantly clear: the Horizon wasn't just any ship. It was far more than a weapon of mass destruction. Beneath its metallic surface, beneath its unyielding firepower, lay something far more powerful: a secret. The first wave of the alien forces had been defeated, their ships disintegrating in brilliant flashes of energy. But even in victory, the human crew of the Horizon knew that this was only the beginning. The alien fleet was vast, and their leader had not yet revealed all of their forces. This was a war, and it was clear that humanity was at the center of it. Inside the battleship, the crew moved swiftly. The captain, battle-worn and exhausted, paced across the command deck. His mind raced. What had they missed? What did the Horizon truly hold that could turn the tide of the war? They had won the first battle, but that alone wouldn't guarantee their survival. The crew had long been aware of the rumors, the whispers among the higher ranks of a weapon, a secret technology that would change everything. They had always been told to focus on the mission, to fight with everything they had, but in these moments of silence, when the weapon was not in use, they knew they could never afford to be distracted. Humanity's secret weapon was something that had been hidden for generations, kept from the eyes of the rest of the galaxy. The captain's thoughts were interrupted when the ship's chief engineer appeared. Her face was tense, eyes locked onto the captain as she moved swiftly toward him. "We've activated the power source," she said, her voice low. "But it's not ready yet." The captain's heart skipped a beat. He had heard of the power source, but no one had ever confirmed the rumors. This was the moment. The time had come for humanity's final answer. "What is it?" the captain asked, his voice a mixture of curiosity and concern. The engineer paused for a moment, then walked over to a nearby terminal. She tapped a few keys, and the screen lit up with a holographic image, an intricate and glowing core, far beyond anything humanity had ever created. It seemed almost organic, pulsating with energy, like it was alive. "This is it. The core that powers the Horizon is a direct link to the first human colony. We never thought we'd need it, but it's been here all along," the engineer explained, her eyes glued to the display. "This core is more than just power. It's a neural network that taps into the knowledge, the technology, and the consciousness of every human who has ever fought for survival. It's an intelligence that evolves. A living, thinking force." The captain stood still, absorbing the weight of her words. "You mean, the core is alive?" he asked. "Alive, yes. But it's not just alive in the way we understand life. It's connected to the consciousness of every human who has fought in the wars of humanity's past, generations of warriors, engineers, scientists, and leaders. Their knowledge is embedded in this core. Their strategies, their victories, their failures, it all comes together in a single consciousness. It evolves, learns, and adapts. It is the essence of human survival, amplified to an unimaginable degree." The captain felt a chill run down his spine. The ship was powered not just by technology, but by the very will of humanity itself, a force that had been built and nurtured through generations of struggle. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a testament to humanity's resilience, to the spirit of those who had fought and died for their survival. But there was more. The engineer's fingers danced across the terminal, and the image on the screen changed. The core began to pulse faster, its light flickering like a heartbeat. "There's more to the core," she said. "It has the ability to tap into the very fabric of space and time. It can create ripples, distortions that allow us to manipulate reality. We can fold space, create temporary wormholes, and travel faster than any ship could ever hope to. But the cost is high. It takes everything. It consumes the energy of the entire ship." The captain felt the weight of the choice before him. The alien fleet had already regrouped, and they were more determined than ever. This was humanity's last chance to win. The Horizon had the power to end the war in an instant, but using the core would drain them, possibly beyond recovery. The ship would be lost, its energy completely consumed. But humanity had always thrived on the brink of destruction. The captain knew what he had to do. "Prepare the core," he commanded, his voice steady. "We will end this now." As the crew worked to activate the core, the Horizon began to hum with power. The entire ship seemed to come alive, vibrating with the energy coursing through it. The core pulsed brighter and faster, feeding the ship with unimaginable force. It was as if the very spirit of humanity was fueling the ship, pushing it beyond its limits. In the distance, the alien fleet continued to close in. Their leader, sitting aboard the massive flagship, had no idea what was coming. They believed humanity was weak, unprepared for the power they had brought to the battlefield. But they were about to learn just how wrong they were. As the Horizon powered up, the captain gave the final order. "Fire!" A blinding light erupted from the ship, a beam of pure energy that stretched across the sky, cutting through the alien fleet like a hot knife through butter. The beam twisted, folded, and split, warping space around it. The core's power, humanity's ultimate weapon, ripped through the enemy's defenses. The alien fleet was obliterated in moments, their ships disintegrating in a burst of light. The battle was over. The Horizon had won, but at what cost? The core, now depleted of all its energy, had drained the ship's power. The Horizon began to drift, its systems failing one by one. The crew, exhausted and battered, knew they had secured humanity's place in the universe. But the journey had come at a price. The Horizon had completed its mission. Humanity had given everything for survival. And as the stars slowly came into view once more, the crew of the Horizon looked out at the vastness of space, knowing that this was just the beginning of humanity's true rise. The silence after the battle was almost as unnerving as the chaos that had preceded it. The once vibrant hum of the Horizon's engines had gone quiet, replaced by the eerie stillness of a ship on the brink of collapse. The core, humanity's greatest secret, had burned through its power, leaving the massive vessel a shell of its former self. The alien fleet was no more, obliterated in an instant by the raw might of human innovation and willpower. But while victory was theirs, it came at an immense cost. The crew, battered and exhausted, gathered in the war room of the Horizon. There was no celebration, no cheering. Only a solemn understanding that their survival was something far more fragile than they had ever imagined. The captain stood at the center, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic map of space displayed before him. The galaxy was vast, and though Earth had won this battle, the universe itself was a much more dangerous place than they had ever realized. They had fought for their survival, but now they had to fight for something far greater, their place among the stars. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. It was the communications officer. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the survivors." The captain turned to face the officer, his brow furrowed. The Horizon had obliterated the alien fleet, but there were still remnants of the invaders scattered throughout the galaxy. Had they missed something? Had there been a hidden force they overlooked? The officer patched the message through. "Captain," the voice on the other end was strained, but it carried an unmistakable sense of urgency. "This is Commander Sellas of the Human Resistance Fleet. We need to talk." The captain's heart skipped. The Horizon had destroyed the alien forces, but was there something else at play? Had the resistance, scattered across the galaxy, managed to survive? Commander Sellers, the captain said, his voice steady. What is it? Speak quickly. There was a pause before Sellers spoke again. We've been watching you. The Horizon's power is unprecedented, but there's something you need to know. The alien forces you've defeated are not the true threat. They were only pawns in a much larger game. The captain felt a chill creep down his spine. What are you saying? We've intercepted communications from the true enemy, Sellers continued. The ones pulling the strings. They're not just aliens. They are something bolder. A race that has been manipulating the galaxy for centuries. And their plans are far from over. The captain felt a surge of anger. Then what do we do? We've already lost everything. Not everything, Sellers countered. The Horizon holds the key to stopping them. But we need you to come to us. There's a location, hidden in the farthest reaches of space. It's a place where the enemy can be defeated once and for all. The captain exchanged a look with his crew. The battle they had just fought had taken everything from them, but now, they had learned that the true war had only just begun. If they were going to survive, they had to risk everything once more. Understood, Commander, the captain said, his voice resolute. We'll come to you. Prepare for the next phase. With that, the Horizon set its course once more, drifting through the void of space, its crew knowing that the true test was still ahead. They had just come face to face with their darkest fear, the unknown. But humanity was nothing if not resilient, and the fight for their future had only just begun. The ship's engine sputtered back to life, not with the full force they once had, but enough to move them forward. The Horizon, humanity's greatest creation, was now more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's unyielding will to survive. But that survival was no longer just about defeating one enemy. It was about taking their place in the cosmos, confronting the ancient forces that had long watched them, and proving that humanity would never kneel, no matter how dire the odds. The stars twinkled silently as the Horizon sailed toward the unknown, its mission far from over. The crew, though weary, was ready. They had fought for their survival once, and now they would fight for something much bigger, their destiny among the stars. As the ship glided through the dark expanse, the captain stood once more on the bridge, looking out at the infinite blackness ahead. There was no turning back. The universe had shown its true face, and humanity had to rise to meet it. The battle for their future was just beginning. The sky had gone dark before, but this time, it was humanity's time to bring the light. And so, the Horizon ventured forth, its crew ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The universe was vast, its dangers endless, but the Horizon was the proof that humanity would never stop fighting. No matter what the enemy, no matter how great the odds, humanity's answer had been given, and it was unstoppable.